The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Tbilisi Energy agreed on a 5-year investment plan with the Georgian National Energy and Water Supply Regulatory Commission, GNERC. According to the regulator, the company will invest $175 million USD. Investors' interest in Georgia has increased due to the rearrangement of global transport lines. Investors are looking for warehousing infrastructure in order to transport goods through Georgia to Europe. David Ebralidze, General Director of the Poti Free Industrial Zone, told BMG. The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund completed the first review of the 3-year standby arrangement for Georgia. The completion of the review enables access to 30 million SDRs, which is about 40 million USD. The Georgian authorities continue to treat the arrangement as precautionary. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Eleni Guanchilashvili, author and the anchor of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to give you the main news in business and economics. The EU is ready to provide financial support for the Black Sea Energy Submarine Cable project, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on 17th of December, attending the signing in the Romanian capital Bucharest of a memorandum of understanding between Azerbaijan, Georgia, Hungary and Romania, which envisages the laying of an underwater electricity cable across the Black Sea.
And I can only say, what an ambitious project. It would connect us on both sides of the Black Sea and run further towards the Caspian Sea region, both for digital communication and for energy. It will help reinforce our security of supply by bringing electricity from renewable sources to the European Union via Romania and through Hungary. The Black Sea electric cable is a new transmission route full of opportunities. This project could bring Georgia, a country with a European destiny, great benefits as well. It could transform the country in an electricity hub and integrate it in the EU internal electricity market. And finally, the Black Sea electric cable could also help bring electricity to our neighbors in Moldova and the Western Balkans. And of course, to Ukraine. It will help start rebuilding Ukraine's energy system and the reconstruction of the country. So, as you can see from my words, the project holds a lot of promises. Now it's on us to deliver on security of energy supply and for decarbonizing our economies. This is why I look very much forward to the results of the feasibility study that is currently ongoing. We will be ready to support because we now have the possibility to support financially projects of mutual interest with our neighboring countries, and the mutual interest is very clear and evident. So today we can say that the two shores of the Black Sea have never been closer.
Present geopolitical challenges and the war in Ukraine has made the need for diversification and resilience even more imperative in order to address urgent challenges of energy security. Georgia's strategic location makes us a natural bridge between the West and the East, serving as a gateway for 8 landlocked countries of South Caucasus and Central Asia. A crucial link on EU's global connectivity map and a game changer when it comes to diversification of transport routes and energy supply to Europe. With this in mind, we have made the connectivity a top priority, with a special vision of connectivity of the Caucasus region and Europe. We are investing in expanding and modernizing our energy, digital and transport infrastructure. we are bringing these sectors in line with the EU norms and standards, according to the commitments under the Association Agreement and DCFTA, Common Aviation Area Agreement, and within the energy community, extending TNT core network and the Eastern Partnership Economic and Investment Plan provide important tools to facilitate investments in the strategic projects that have national and the wider regional value as well. Dear friends, a few years ago, with the initiative of Georgia, the work has started on the project, which envisages the connection of the electric energy systems of the Caucasus region and Europe by means of a high-voltage underwater power transmission line. So today, by signing the agreement on strategic partnership in the field of green energy development and transmission between Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary, we are confirming the readiness of our countries to cooperate closely in terms of green energy supply. As you know, Georgia has substantial potential for power generation surplus from renewable energy sources that it can supply to neighboring countries. Today, we have the appropriate infrastructure for electricity supply to all our neighbors except Europe. The Black Sea underwater electricity transmission cable holds an important prospect to this end. The project will support development of the renewable energy sector and increase transit opportunities, back-to-back trade options between the EU and South Caucasus region. As a result of this project implementation, by connecting the power systems of Georgia, Romania, Azerbaijan, and Hungary, Europe will be able to connect not only with Georgia, but with the entire South Caucasus region. In June 2020, the World Bank prepared a report on preliminary economic analysis of the Black Sea submarine cable project, which proved that the above-mentioned project is economically viable. On April 26 of 2021, we have announced a request for expression of interest for the feasibility study of the Black Sea underwater electricity transmission cable and digital line construction project. The selection was carried out in accordance with the World Bank procurement procedures. As the result of selection, the winner has been identified. The feasibility study commenced on May 11 of 2022, this year, and will be implemented during 18 months period. I should also emphasize that strengthening the interconnection and energy transit capabilities of the region is of strategic importance for my government. Being a credible transit partner, Georgia has been a key link for the delivery of hydrocarbon resources via major regional energy transit routes from the Caspian Sea basin to the west. The implementation of this project opens a new dimension for the development of strategic partnership between our countries. And once again, let me reiterate that Georgia has a huge potential for production and export of renewable energy, will contribute to the strengthening of Europe's energy security.
Imamura Akira, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to Georgia, called the Russia-Ukraine war a global challenge. He noted that with TV show Forbes Talks, according to the ambassador, Asia cannot turn a blind eye to the events on the European front because it also affects them. As Imamura Akira notes, Russia's invasion of Ukraine prompted many world countries to cooperate, including Georgia and Japan. More in Georgi Sagadze's interview with Imamura Akira.
Ambassador, going back to early 2021, that's a period when an investment agreement has been signed between Georgia and Japan, which aims to encourage, let me quote, and protect investments between two countries. Do you think that it was necessary to sign this agreement, and what are the results coming back to the nowadays?
Yes, I think it's very significant to sign this treaty with Georgia at this point. Of course, Georgia has a very liberal and open economy, and its investment climate is quite renowned world over. But what investors want is long-term perspective, their long-term assurance of their investment assets. So in other words, they need stability and predictability. And so this treaty ensures these two most important factors, stability and the predictability for investors, through binding Japan and Georgia, one of the most advanced rules and standards that both countries, both governments should abide by. So I'm sure through this treaty, this will give this assurance that I mentioned and encourage investment both ways.
TEPCO, at the same time, is a great example of the interest, and TEPCO is not an ordinary investor, which is, how to say it, making emotional decisions. You are very much aware that there are some emotional investors around a lot. But at the same time, TEPCO did it, and did it a few years ago. Are there other Japanese companies which are interested in Georgia, and what are the main spheres of their interest?
I think TEPCO is quite satisfied with its investment in Daliali hydropower plant near Kazbegi Mountain. It's a very beautiful area. I visited it. And its decision to invest in Daliali gave a very positive signal to other potential Japanese investors. So I know already a couple of them are visiting Georgia and looking for good projects. Mainly, of course, in hydropower, because you have so many potential project sites in Georgia now selected and under study. But also in more wider sphere of recyclable energy. They're quite interested in other areas like wind or solar, or even new energies. So we should encourage it through, first of all, Georgian government's arrangement, for example, a power purchase agreement that I'm sure will be in place for those investors, but also from Japanese side, including the recent agreement we signed in September on so-called joint crediting mechanism. This is to provide up to 50% of the project cost from Japanese side through grant assistance to Japanese companies who will cooperate with Georgian side on any projects that will lead to reduction of emission. Yes. So this is a very strong push towards Japanese companies' move to Georgia.
Motivation, strong one. Whoever is connected to the green economy, they're going to be funded additionally. I mean, the Japanese side, additionally 50%.
Yes. So we're looking for good projects, and if any of the Georgian side, it could be private sector, public sector, or NGO, any entity in Georgia that can come up with ideas cooperating with Japanese companies to reduce emission. It's not only just recyclable energy, what I talked about, but also replacing older equipment with new ones to raise the energy efficiency, and that means reducing the emission, could be eligible. So we welcome many of those projects that we can pass on to our private sector.
We also have statistics whether Japan is is among top 5, sometimes top 3 within the investors list for Georgia. At the same time, besides having TEPCO, we also have Toyota among the big investors of this year. Going to be more specific in this regards, do you see a potential for having more attractiveness for Japanese car manufacturers to be more active in Georgia?
Well, I think Georgia is regarded from our car industries as a very good export market and a gateway to South Caucasus, because you have FTA with other countries, including Azerbaijan. So car manufacturer is quite interested in looking at Georgia as this potential. So they're doing very well in car sales in Georgia and Azerbaijan. Our top makers are quite active. And what they can contribute, and contributing now, is to the betterment of the environment.
Environment.
Yes, especially through low emission cars. I'm very glad to see lots of cars, Japanese cars, operating in Georgia and Azerbaijan and elsewhere, especially those hybrid cars with high efficiency. But as we, of course, export our cars, there's a question of end-of-life vehicles. If you drive your car, of course, eventually it end up as kind of a end of life, and you have to dispose them in an environmentally safe way. And this is something also we are quite interested, and we're ready to share our experience. Yes.
I want to share with you some export data in the trade turnover with Japan during the last 8 months. I mean the current year, which was decreased by 25% to the same period of the previous year, amounted 10.4 in US dollars. But wine, fruit juices, honey are within the top 10 of the products. And I'm talking about the list of the agriculture products. But we both know and understand that the share is too small. These 2 years, maybe it's not everything and cannot cover all the direction, but quite enough for you to have a consideration. What else can Georgia export to Japan?
Well, you know, Japan's food self-sufficiency rate, so-called, is 38%. That means we can only produce domestically our food up to 38% only. And that's a very small amount. And we are exporting more than 6% of our food. It's based on, I think, calorie calculation. But still 6% is a huge amount. And when we look at Georgia as a potential agricultural export, I think there's a complementary role or trade relationship between Japan and Georgia. And I think Georgia can do more to export its agricultural products to Japan, especially through increasing its quality of agricultural products and its productivity.
Productivity.
Yes. And of course, you should work on those more. We're also helping you through provision of equipment. Such, for example, recently I've been to Akumeta municipality and we provided refrigerators for its famous cheese industry. Yes, as one example. And also we are quite interested in sharing our experience in productivity, rising the productivity in Georgia, especially the organization of production of agriculture. We are quite experienced in a cooperative organization, and that's the very basis of any individual farmers to increase its efficiency. So that's another thing that we're doing, is sharing information.
So 2 products I want to be more specific of. First is honey. Japan is in top 5 where we export honey most of. And how did the demand from Japan appeared? Are you familiar with the story and how Japan is becoming one of the main exporters of the Georgian honey?
Well, as you once again trade figures, we only produce 7% of our domestic consumption of honey.
Same story.
Same story. So we need 93% coming from other countries. And we import mainly, as of now, from China or Argentine or Hungary, those countries. So that's why Georgia's portion is still low. But I do not know concretely how demand appeared in Japan about Georgian honey, but my guess is that it's related to Japanese people's health consciousness. Honey is, of course, very good for your health, and it's lots of healthy ingredients in there. So Japanese consumers are always looking for, honey that is good for your health. And the ones that we're importing I'm pretty much sure that it's somehow associated with Georgia's image in Japan related to the natural or organic food.
Organic
Yes.
food.
Because for already a long time, we've been eating mazzoni of Georgia. I was eating in mazzoni while I was still in Japan, even before I was appointed as an ambassador to Georgia. And it has Georgian flag and Georgian mother or woman with the cow. So we are quite used to this image of Georgia. And I think honey was most likely associated with healthy food.
Organic one,
Yes.
yeah. At the same time, I want to speak more about Georgian wine, which is, according to all the researchers, Mr. Ambassador, is the most expensive in Japan. I mean, the Georgian wine, USA and Germany. How well Georgian wine is known in Japan? What do you think?
Well, I'm very glad that the recognition of Georgian wine is rising. And the high price is probably a reflection of high appreciation of the consumers. So that means they approve the high quality and good taste of Georgian wine. I think it's going on together with other totally unrelated areas, movement in those areas, like Georgian sumo wrestler Tochinoshin is becoming so popular. He's probably most known Georgian in Japan. Or Georgian food shikumeruri is now very famous in Japan. You can buy ready-to-eat shikumeruri in Japanese stores. So those awareness about Georgia in Japan is rising. That's why I think Georgian wine is doing better. But I think the amount, again, like honey, is still relatively small compared to other countries' wine. So I think you have to strengthen the branding strategy even more. For my suggestion, I would say, could be, again here, use the health consciousness of Japanese people and emphasize the organic taste of your Cuevre wine. Because Cuevre wine is very unique in Georgia. Nobody else is seriously producing only Georgian. And it's related to this organic processing that you have for more than 8,000 years. So that's, I think, one very important branding strategy for you.
While following your local activities, we see you're traveling a lot in Georgia, within the Georgian regions. I would like to talk a bit about tourism. Japan is always like among the top 10 like visitors for Georgia, but geographical distance is absolutely ununderstandable personally for me, but at the same time it's covered. How does it match, Mr. Ambassador? Could you be so kind to explain to me that Japan, located so far from Georgia, is still much paying interest to the local tourism, local destinations, etc. and so on?
Yes, I think Japanese tourists are quite interested in experience-based tourism. So they, of course, like beautiful scenery, but they love to experience its history, culture, and arts, and of course food, which Georgia has all and can offer even more. And they're ready to spend a lot of money, so there's a huge potential for a huge future increase. I visited, for example, your Georgia National Museum, where you can see 2000 BC golden necklace. And it's just unimaginable for any Japanese tourist, because 2000 BC is the time when Japanese were just hunting. No metal objects, no metal tools at all. So it's an amazing culture that we can discover and not much known to Japanese people. Or the Georgian monasteries, beautiful fresco paintings, very unknown still in Japan, and beautiful polyphony songs and music. So those are the experiences that Japanese tourists can spend time for, and Georgia can offer. And I would suggest two things. we don't still have a direct flights between Japan and Georgia. So we need it, but as a first step, maybe we should bring in a group of people, Japanese tourists, to use the charter flights. It's just
So it's going to be the first good step.
Pilot step.
Pilot step.
Yes. And second suggestion I would make would be invite, maybe your tourism agency can invite Japanese tour operators, tourism companies, to come here and experience what I've just described, and then bring back that experience to Japan to organize a tour for Japanese tourists.
At the same time, for the more awareness and things, etc.
Yes.
In one of your interviews, Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned that it was a bit earlier that Georgia plays the role of an important corridor, and you are talking about the middle corridor, but a developed infrastructure additionally is needed. What do you advise to our country in this regard?
Yes. We've been paying a lot of attention to Georgia's this unique role of bringing tying the north and east and west together, Asia and Europe. So it's a bridge between the two continents, and this role in recent years has been increasing, especially in the recent months, because of this increasing demand of cargo that goes through a middle corridor. And recently we have held a business forum that brought in more than 15 Japanese companies. And one of the panels were devoted to discussions on this middle corridor, how we can increase the investment and cope with this increasing demand of cargo. And I think key solutions should be to upgrade your railway capacity as well as ports. And I would say the key to everything is to make all those cargo flow in containers. So containerization is still in a very earlier stage. For that, of course, you need to invest more in deep sea ports. I'm sure Poti or Anaklia is being discussed now. So those are the possible solution for coping with this increasing demand.
At the same time, you are definitely aware and following all the challenges happening around the country. We are one of the neighbors of Russia, which invaded to Ukraine. And at the same time, you definitely have, and sharing with your colleagues and with your Georgian allies, some thoughts. We can call them advices or sharing experience about the possible faster progress in economy for Georgia. Do you have any ideas for that?
Yes, it's well. First of all, you said that Russia invaded Ukraine and occupies Russia. Actually, Georgia, but actually, Japan is also occupied illegally by Russians from 1945. So it's even longer than you. So we have this common experience of being occupied by our common northern neighbor. So that's one of the challenges.
We both have.
We both have. And because of the territorial size that Russians are occupying, Georgia, of course, has economic impact. So, of course, we support your territorial integrity, and we're supporting your IDPs, providing jobs to them. That's key to any economic issue, social issue that needs to be solved for Georgia. But apart from this most difficult challenge for Georgia, what is needed is, I think, gradually move to start more investment in manufacturing. I know that Georgia has very good financial sector or services sector in general, but still the manufacturing sector is in the making. And for example, I know that some of the Turkish companies are doing good investments to produce
jobs.
yes, jobs through apparel, the clothing, and to be exported to Europe. Japan has also invested in Turkey heavily, so maybe they can use the final phase of their production, the Georgian territory, to produce, export it to export to European Union. That's one example for manufacturing. And for example, car parts industry in Japan is looking for cost-effective destinations.
Territory and niches.
Yes, right now. They also heavily invest in Europe, also in Turkey. They're producing car parts for assembly, but they need a new frontier. And Georgia could be one of the candidates in the future. So you have to, of course, train your labor and create better environment even further. But I think there's a potential for future manufacturing too.
From Japan to France, Georgi Sakadze will be guiding us in our next interview again, and we will be highlighting AFD Group for you, which funds, supports and accelerates the transition to a fairer and more sustainable world, focusing on climate, biodiversity, peace, education, urban development, health and governance. AFD teams carry out more than 4,000 projects in France's overseas departments and territories and another 115 countries. In this way, AFD contributes to the commitment of France and the French people to support the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. More specifically on Georgia, AFD Group supports Georgia's commitment to combat climate change by promoting a fair and inclusive transition and its convergence path with the EU. AFD Group has been operating in Georgia since 2012 in the sectors of regional connectivity, energy, agriculture, water resources management, and human development. As a member of Team Europe, AFD Group operates through sovereign and non-sovereign operations to support reforms and infrastructure development, and through Proparco for the private sector and Expertise France for technical cooperation projects. AFD's main action in Georgia encompasses building sustainable and inclusive economic and political models, sustainable management of territories and preservation of natural resources, supporting urban adaptations and fostering the energy transition. The main numbers so far: 11 projects financed in Georgia since 2019, 715 million euro commitments since 2019, 80 million euro financing provided to the private sector, 44,000 beneficiaries with improved access to drinking water in Khashuri municipality. More on AFD Georgia cooperation we'll get to know from this interview.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Georgi Sakadze, and this is BMG TV. It's the only existing and, trust me, quite well developing business TV channel in Georgia. So, not only in Georgia and region, by region I mean South Caucasus countries, and this point will be much important in conversation with my guest, but let me go back to him a bit later. So, today we will be talking about AFD Group, which implements France's policy in the areas of development and international solidarity, let me say so. And the group includes agency itself, AFD, which finances the public sector, and NGOs, also Proparco, which is dedicated to private sector financing and Expertise France, a technical cooperation agency. The group finances, supports, and accelerates transitions towards a fairer, more resilient world with its partners present in more than 115 countries through grants, loans, reserve fund, or debt reducing and development contracts. AFD funds projects, programs, and studies, and supports its partners in capacity building. AFD also funds and assists projects and programs that support more sustainable and shared economic growth, improve the living conditions of the people, contribute to the preservation of the planet, and help to stabilize countries that are fragile or recovering from crisis. The AFD agency, based in Tbilisi, was opened in 2016, and it covers 3 countries, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And Georgia, AFD finances development projects under Green and Inclusive Growth mandate. It operates mainly the sectors of urban and rural development, infrastructure, water, irrigation, it's renewable energies, social protection, and health. So considerably, that's the reason why I wanted to interview the representative of AFD office. And before starting the conversation, let me brief you who is in charge and who is the head of AFD regional office for the South Caucasus. His name is Raphael Jozan, graduated from Agro Paris Tech. Dr. Raphael Jozan is a French state engineer specialized in the territorial planning, the management of natural resources, and the conception and evaluation of environmental policies. He started his career as a research fellow. It was in École de Paris Tech, and working with various consulting firms, international organizations, and governments. Personally, Raphael joined the French Development Agency, AFD team, in 2008 as an advisor to the chief economist and executive director of the strategy department. Since August 2015, he had been the head of the representative regional office for Central Asia, based in Tashkent, and since September 2020, he was as the Director General of AFD Regional Office for the South Caucasus countries. So, Raphael, thank you for your time and glad to host you in our BMG office.
Hello, Georgi.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I think I covered most of activities of...
Yes, you said everything.
No,
actually,
I'm not sure about that, but definitely, it's your first appearance to the global media, and at the same time, I really want to come up with some ideas and thoughts. How do you evaluate these 10 years of AFD being in our region and especially in Georgia?
You say that AFD is implementing the French development
Absolutely.
strategy. It's half of the story, because if AFD is working in Georgia, it's because the two governments, the Georgian government and the French government, they decided in 2012 to expand the cooperation between the two countries. And we have a shared mandate, which is the climate change, and which is the EU convergence. This is the two main mandates that we have, and this is the shared mandate that we have between the Georgians and the French people. It was decided in 2012 that AFD would be operating here. Then in 2015, the two countries have signed the Paris Agreement. To fight against the climate change. And as you know, also this association agreement between EU and Georgia is also the main driver, and it is entering into force in 2016. And this is the two main drivers in our operations in Georgia. Then it's a shared mandate, it's a shared decision, and it's not only the policy of French government that we are implementing. It is, as you said, we are implementing several instruments. AFD is actually a public bank financing the government's projects and the reforms. We have also Proparco financing the private sector, and as you said, Expertise France. And in total, since 2016, because the first operation is 2016, we have engaged 750 million euros of financing for supporting the development of Georgia, which is quite significant. And back in 2021, we have this framework agreement, partnership agreement between AFD and the government of Georgia. And we have this commitment to engage additional 150 million euros per year for the support of Georgia with these two main mandates, which is the EU convergence and also the fight against climate change.
Raphael, while going back to the vision and strategy in general of AFD, can you clarify for us that something very important has happened in 2012, and it was based on values, which was the most engagement between two governments, like Georgian and France government, while deciding to go forward?
Yes, it's shared values. Then we have this ultimate goal. And then the thing, and this what we do is implementing, is doing together. What we know is that we have these shared values, which is a goal, but then the road is not written in advance. We have to write it together, to create together what will be the road for implementing this Paris Agreement, for also accessing the EU. And the EU convergence. Then we work together with the Georgian government, with the Georgian experts, and AFD is actually a vehicle for enhancing the dialogue between the French experts, the French civil servants, and the Georgian experts, the Georgian civil servants, and we build together the instruments for implementing these values that we share. What we do is supporting the institutions, the reforms, and we know that Georgia is a reformer, and it's not only the reforms and the institutions, it's also investing in the people, investing in the services, in the infrastructure. And what we do with the government is finding this right balance between the reforms, the institutions, the rules to play, and also the service to the people, to the citizens. And we have been working in several sectors: energy, the water and sanitation, also the health. And we will do more with the irrigation, water resources management, and also the infrastructure. And another thing that I want to underline is that we are part of a whole system of development partners. We work together with the other development partners. Of course, the Europeans,
like?
but also like KfW,
okay.
the EU, these European Investment Bank or EBRD, but also the multilaterals like the World Bank, ADB, Asian Development Bank. We are part of this whole group of development partners working together with Georgia, supporting Georgia to achieve its values, to achieve its goals. And then when we do the reform, of course, we work together with the experts from all over the world, sharing the expertise together with the Georgian experts and the government. We also provide some investments for several cities, but of course, there must be an overall investment in the overall country. AFD is engaged, for instance, in the water and sanitation for Khashuri city. This is the city where we bring our financing, but there are also other cities that are supported by the other development partners, and we're working in a coordinated way with development partners.
This is a part of this 750 million euros, which were spent and invested during this period,
exactly.
Correct?
The Khashuri project, yes, it is part of the 750 million euros. It's co-financed with the European Union, which is financing some of the investments, but also for some of the expertise. There are also some other investments that we are preparing now with the Zemo-Samgori irrigation scheme. It's a particular irrigated scheme that we are financing, are preparing to finance also with the European Union, with the EIB, European Investment Bank, and also in coordination with ADB, Asian Development Bank.
Raphael, while covering all three countries, I mean, there are definitely some similarities, there are some differences in these regards. I'm talking about South Caucasus countries, but besides these similarities and differences, are you supporting regional integration as well? Is it also a part of AFD vision and mandate?
Absolutely. I would say that the starting point is working together with the countries. We had engaged the exchanges with the Georgian government and Georgia, engage in parallel the support to Armenia and in parallel also Azerbaijan. But more and more, we understand that it's not only 3 countries, it's a whole region, especially after the second war in the Karabakh and the ceasefire agreement. There is this need and this will expressed by the 3 countries to work together, to find shared solutions, to build solutions together. We have been engaged in parallel in the 3 countries in several sectors, for instance, the railway in Azerbaijan and in Georgia, in the water resources management in Armenia and Georgia. And we understand that more and more the 3 countries are facing regional aspects of the sectors. And we want also to be a leverage for implementing and increasing the regional integration. I think this is also the shared values of Europe. And this, we implement not only the French strategy of development, but also the European strategy. And with the 3 countries, they have this Eastern Partnership and also this economic and investment plan. And the economic and investment plan in the neighboring countries is all about more integration. Not only, but I say all about, it's mostly integration between the countries and also the connection between the countries and EU.
While moving to the challenges of Georgia and region for 2023, I really want to speak about the basic achievements. You're a part of the most important mandate. I'm talking about EU integration, which is the biggest challenge for Georgia right nowadays. How can we evaluate how Georgia is doing and moving forward, and where they can rely on AFD and others as reliable partners on the way, as you have mentioned, that nobody can instruct how to move forward. We've got to ride this route together.
I think this EU agenda is a huge agenda, and it's a very long process. It's a long process, and as I said, the road to this EU is not written in advance. Of course, there is this goal. There is this association agreement which defines some specific goals and measures and some other requirements. But in the end, it's all about finding the way, and this is what we do together with the government of Georgia. And what is striking with the government of Georgia is how much it is drawing long-standing path, transitional path of reforms. I take the example of the energy. We have been supporting the reform of the energy sector since 2018.
Okay.
As you know, Georgia is part of the European Energy Community since 2017, and we have written together with the government, together with KfW, our German partner, and also EU, an overall matrix, an overall path, transitional path for reaching the requirements for of this energy community, and also of the opening of the market. It's a very long process.
You're talking about opening electricity market, etc., and all the reforms.
Which is to be, it has been announced for 2023.
Yeah, correct.
But it has been prepared already for 5 years. And I must say that there are still some question marks. We are working together with the government for making it possible, the opening of the electricity market in 2022 and 2023. I take another example of the water resources management. There are also some requirements of these association agreements to align to certain requirements of the Water Framework Directive of the European Union. And we are building together with ADB, with the European Investment Bank, also a transitional path for reaching these new institutions where water will be managed within these river basins with some new institutions that will increase the democracy of water resource management and also the efficiency of water use and water consumption.
My last question, but not least, is about 2023, as I mentioned, which definitely is going to be key in the relationship with European Union. I'm talking about the candidacy agenda itself, what we're trying to follow. Major challenges from your personal point of view as a head of the regional office for 2023.
I think every year is key in this process.
And every year
it's not to
crucial.
contradict you.
Yeah.
It's not
to
contradict you.
It's true.
But as I said, it's an overall process. But what we see is the acceleration. It's the acceleration of the agenda, the acceleration of the candidacy to access the European Union. The turbulent environment also. And we see that we need more flexibility. We need to adapt to these new challenges, to the new requirements of the government. They want to accelerate. We are here to accelerate and propose the services to reach the targets that are defined by the Georgian government in this overall process. What is to be considered is that, yes, there is this EU accession agenda, but there is also the other development challenges that we are facing today, the food security, energy security, this connectivity with the EU also is absolutely key. Then we see that there are some more and more challenges that should be faced and addressed now directly. The great chance of Georgia is that Georgia has been preparing this process for so long that it's mostly a matter of taking the right decision now for implementing the reforms that were prepared during the last 5 years. Then we have to fine-tune the institutions, work together with the civil society, with the business community, with the other development partners, and we believe that AFD can be a right partner for enabling this overall process.
We have some fantastic decisions for this period and for, resuming of our conversation, like the latest development in energy cooperation, which was launched by European Union and which was preliminarily signed by 4 countries: Georgia, Azerbaijan, it was Romania, and it was Hungary. And everything relates to those reforms and to those agenda, which was launched by your agency and other counterparts. I'm talking about simplification and opening of the electricity market, which is going to be key and crucial for further development of the generation. So due to some unexpected situation what we face after 24th of February of this year, this is becoming more and more crucial. I think this will open some new challenges and some new possibilities for Georgia as well, which was also confirmed by President Ursula von der Leyen.
Yes, there are some agreements. We see that as several actors, stakeholders of the region signing an agreement with European states, then we see that it's actually what I say, this mandate, this EU mandate is a shared mandate. It's not only a mandate defined by the Europeans. Europe, the future of Europe, is also defined by those who have this European aspiration and the neighbors of the Europe. It's key. And we see that, yes, there is this agreement, there will be some reforms to be engaged in each country and between the countries, and also, and I think this agreement between the countries you're speaking about is also about some infrastructure.
Yeah,
infrastructure
sure.
with connectivity with the undersea Black Sea cable to connect Georgia
With
the South Caucasus with the European grid, which is not the case today, and that could be the future. And but I think that before that, because this is a long-standing infrastructure project that could happen maybe 10, 15 years, to be prepared now, and the government of Georgia is actually working on it, investing on the feasibility studies financed by the World Bank. The opening of the market, this is what we think, and what the government think will also accelerate the investment in Georgia of new capacities, new generation capacities of renewable energies with the hydropower plant. And we think that this opening of the market will enable this competitive environment for further and larger capacity development in Georgia.
I hope that for the beginning of the spring, I think it was May of the 1st when it was announced that it's going to be opened finally. I mean, all the things regarding energy and electricity market is going to be done for sure, and it will implement absolutely the new stage for the further development. Thank you so much, Rafael, for your time.
Thank you very much.
I hope that we will cover your activities in the future as well.
Excellent. Thank you for hosting me and for the conversation we had.
Good luck to you. Good luck to AFT. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The latest issue of Forbes Georgia in English is out. Find out all about the novel, cover stories, leaderboards, ratings, and interviews you will read in the newest edition from Georgi Aroni's teaser.
The latest issue of Forbes Georgia in English is out. Find out what's in the current issue and enjoy an insight into top stories and leaderboards. York Holding Group is on the verge of digitizing the Georgian real estate industry. Amr Alavas is orchestrating the technological transformation. Read the cover interview I conducted with the chairman of York Holding Group about digitizing the real estate market and how technology allows investors to get higher yields. Georgian intellectual capital is another cover story from the latest issue. I sat with Tamar Gacharia, Chief Financial Officer at CBS Group, to talk about deal-making, motherhood, and leading with empathy. What is spookier this year, Halloween or the upcoming winter? Before we submerge into a negative fantasy influenced by Russian propaganda and imagine an ice age instead of a typical winter, it is important to realize how Western democracies, especially in the EU, are tackling the energy crisis caused by Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. Read about the ongoing energy crisis in David Tvalavadz's op-ed. Hosting the FIFA World Cup is a costly endeavor. If you want to know how much it costs to host the World Cup, check our leaderboard for answers and consider the costs and revenues of the FIFA World Cup since 1966 to get a clear picture. What are the 150 largest Georgian companies by revenue? Who is leading the race and what are the numbers? Find the rating compiled by Shota Treshelashvili and approved by Grant Thornton in the latest issue of Forbes Georgia magazine. A 300% increase in construction volume in 2022-2023. Beka Hoperia and Apart Development have set themselves a specific and measurable development objective. Read our interview about Hoperia's healthy ambition. Bemoni will have its say in international energy projects. Georgi Mirskhlava starts his interview with Forbes Georgia with a bold statement. His team is currently working on several large projects. What is the possible new reality for the energy sector in the region and the objectives set by his company? You will find answers to these questions in the latest issue of Forbes Georgia magazine. Moving forward at the Abkhaz pace is a feature story by Georgi Sakadze about Khucha Makatsaria, who made his fortune in Ochamchire but lost it with his home in Abkhazia. Continuing his business career in Russia, Makatsaria built pavilions and ran a chain of petrol stations before diversifying his undertakings. Khucha Makatsaria's business assets in Georgia, where he returned in 2008, include Telasi, Tbilisi Energy, Telmiko, Beeline, and several others. Rarely seen in the public spotlight today, the businessman tells the story of his life and commercial activities. 20 years in the market and up to 500 projects implemented across Georgia. The company has around 40 ongoing projects, including the Renewed Regions program implemented in 16 locations. Read the interview with the founder of Dagi Construction, Gogi Gulordava. 30 years of TBC and its technological future. TBC expects to have 7 million customers by 2025, which is almost twice the population of Georgia. We'll reach this target, says CEO Vakhtang Butskikidze as he summarizes 30 years of TBC. M2 has been operating in the Georgian development market for more than 15 years, promising customers a better living. Live your own life is the company's response to modern challenges. Yet that is not all. For more insights into business and economy world, read Forbes Georgia.
Let us now check on weekly business news and outlook put together by our reporter Natia Taktakishvili. Alliance Group will complete construction of largest project of Alliance Centropolis in 2026. The total cost of the project reaches $400 million. As the head of the company's business development department, Temur Bitsadze said, the investment value of the project is more than the value of 20 projects implemented by the company from 2005 to 2022. According to him, at the moment, 50% of the project is already sold and half of the buyers are Georgians. Interest in the project is high from the Baltic, Persian Gulf and Western European countries. We are on the market for 70 years and have implemented more than 20 projects. The value of Alliance Centropolis is more than the total value of these projects. It's about $400 million. The company has implemented exactly the same amount of investments since 2005. The project will continue for 4 years and late in 2026 we will have an impressive project in Batumi. At the moment, 50% have already been sold, out of which we can say that half of the sales accounts for Georgians. Interest is also growing for the Baltic, Persian Gulf, Western European countries including Spain and Germany, Bitsadze said. Flower shop Ameli starts a new project Ameli Home from January 15, 2023. As the founder of the company, Nuka Barbare Chokheli told TV program Women's Narrative, customers can take flowers to house every week for 3 months within the frame of the project. According to her, the idea of creating the project was determined by the growing demand because people often buy flowers for themselves. At the beginning of 2023, our new project, Amelie Home, will be launched. I deeply hope that this project will be as successful as our other projects. Amelie Home refers to the service of ordering flowers at home once a week. The customer makes a 3-month subscription service and they can refresh the interior of the house with live flowers once a week. All customers will have their own account on Amelie Home G, where they will choose the desired compositions and automatically receive them at home at the same time once a week, said Nuka Barbare Chokheli. Tea House Chai Bude opens in Mestia late in December. As its founder, Tatia Tetrashvili told BMG, the first vintage cafe in Mestia will be able to host 25 guests at the same time. We are opening a tea house in the center of Mestia where guests can mainly taste an assortment of teas, hot chocolate, coffee and sweets. As for the design, we have chosen more vintage style and Georgian elements. A vintage cafe is new for Mestia, so we expect a lot of interest. We can host 25 guests at the same time, and to tell the truth, like other spaces in Mestia, our cafe is mainly focused on tourists. However, we think that cozy environment and discounted prices should be interesting for locals as well. With us, the price of coffee starts from 5 gelari and sweets from 3-4 gelari, Tatia Tetrashvili said. According to her, the main challenge in the process of launching the tea house was the lack of local staff. Tatia Tetrashvili noted that she created Chai Bude completely with personal investment. She rented a space and arranged the interior according to her own taste. She made an investment of 30,000 gelari. Guri Salukadze, founder of Chirchkhela, declares that Georgian traditional sweets manufacturing company has increased prices by 20-30% on New Year's baskets.
The cost of the basket increases depending on the number of products inside. We mainly put wine, honey, churchella, dried fruit rolls and dried fruits. The sharp price increase has also affected us, so compared to the previous years, the price for the New Year baskets has increased by 20-30%, and currently average basket costs about 250 gelari. Although we also have small basket, the price of which ranges from 16 gelari to 90 gelari, Goris Alukwadze says. As for the best-selling products, he says that the demand for churchella has increased significantly. Churchella has been operating in the market since 2016 and owns 2 stores in Tbilisi. The company has production facilities in Kakheti and Guria and produces 25 types of dried fruits, 10 types of dried fruit rolls and 8 types of churchella.
We'll focus in more detail about the EU-supported innovative Georgian pharma company that's opening a new manufacturing facility. The Georgian biopharmaceutical company, BCP, has completed the process of modernization of its historic bacteriophage manufacturing factory. A 2-year investment project worth 17.5 million lari, which is around 6 million euro, has been implemented with the support of the EU, the EBRD, FAO, and the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia.
We have opened a new production line for a very innovative Georgian company that is putting on the market a completely new product, which is an alternative to antibiotics. Amazing story, and I'm really proud that European Union was part of this story, providing financing to the company. Huge potential. All know that antibiotics have serious issues, so I hope that this very innovative product will be an alternative, not only in Georgia, but also worldwide.
We are glad that the enterprise operates successfully and continues the very long tradition that the country has in the production of bacteriophages. Through this enterprise, Georgia will be proudly represented on the map of technologies, including biotechnologies in the future.
The production of PAC preparations and the PAC therapy are still a novelty for most of the countries around the world. Millions of people still do not have access to PACs, leaving patients vulnerable towards antibiotic-resistant infections. With this project, the company is increasing its production capacity and export area, thus making PACs available for millions of patients across the globe. The modernization of the manufacturing plant, high-tech infrastructure and production lines enables the company to scale up its production in compliance with the internationally recognized manufacturing standards, to become more effective in fight against the resistant infections and overcome the global threat of antibiotic resistance.
The opening event of the first industrial-scale manufacturing plant of PAC preparations that meets sterile aseptic production guidelines was attended by Levan Davitashvili, Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia, Paweł Herczyński, Ambassador of the European Union to Georgia, Katarina Björlin-Hansen, EBRD Regional Director for the Caucasus, Javier Sanz Alvarez, Coordinator of FAO projects in Georgia. The newly modernized plant is located in Tbilisi in the historic Bacteriophage Institute and represents the first enterprise producing sterile liquid dosage forms in the South Caucasus, covering the full production cycle, including the production of active pharmaceutical ingredients, as well as primary and secondary packaging of medicines. Biochem Pharma exports PACs to 8 countries, employs a team of 60 people, holds 2 international patents and nearly 100 years of experience in PAC R&D and production. And what falls under the main weekly economy news and outlook, we'll find out right now.
Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development Levan Davitashvili declares that it's planned to start the construction of Khudoni hydropower plant in 2023. As the minister explained at the briefing held after the end of the government meeting, Khudoni hydropower plant will be built with the participation of the state. According to him, the government bought the Khudoni hydropower plant project from an investor and the auction will be announced next year. The government has approved an agreement on the purchase of Khudoni hydropower plant. Accordingly, an agreement was made with the investor company and the state took back the project, which will allow us to start implementing the project in 2023 with the active participation of the state. As a result, such an important large energy and strategic projects will be implemented with the active participation of the state of Georgia in the future. We made a deal with the investor company relating to $135 million USD. We had an international law firm involved in the drafting this settlement. Also, with their participation, communication took place between the parties, and I think that there are favorable conditions for Georgia, said Levan Davitashvili. Tbilisi City Hall has cancelled the contract with Mamison LLC, the company in charge of renovating metro station Gotsiridze. Mayor Kaha Kaladze described it as a problematic, irresponsible company which delayed the process. Besides the delay, the company did not supply the essential papers. The requisite expertise has not yet been conducted. Commissioning procedures are underway and several flaws have been detected that must be addressed, he noted. The mayor went on to say that the City Hall would fix the faults. Sebastian Molinos, World Bank's regional director for South Caucasus, on Wednesday said Georgia ranked top among emerging markets and countries in terms of public finance management system, calling it undoubtedly a very impressive achievement. This is supported by other international studies such as the Open Financial Index, which places Georgia's top in the budget transparency, he continued. According to him, it's important that Georgia constantly improves the results. According to the 2022 Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Global Report, Georgia ranks first among 59 countries in the globe with the continual progress of public finance management. Investors' interest in Georgia has increased due to the rearrangement of global transit lines. Investors are looking for warehousing infrastructure in order to transport goods through Georgia to Europe, David Bralidze, General Director of Party Free Industrial Zone, told BMG. According to him, free industrial zone infrastructure has become quite attractive for investors because the interest in Middle Corridor has increased significantly against the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine war. As Bralidze explains, there is interest mainly from the CIS countries and Central Asia. Several European companies and businesses from neighboring Turkey also want to operate in the free industrial zone. In Georgia, investors are looking for spaces where they can place their products, which will then be exported to Europe through ports and not only by land transport. I want to tell you that in our reality, this year has been one of the best. I mean, we have already registered more than 30 companies, although compared to the previous years we were focused on trade and service companies. This year it changed and we attracted industries or investors who invested money and created real infrastructure and deployed people, says David Bralidze. Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development Levan Davitashvili declares that the Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia can be considered as a visit of special economic importance for Georgia. According to him, within the framework of the visit, a meeting was held between the Prime Minister of Georgia and the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, during which many sectors of economic cooperation were discussed. We talked about different sectoral directions such as energy, trade, and there is a great potential for cooperation between two countries. I think that the visit had been very successful. A decision was made by Prime Minister to create working groups in different fields in order to get practical results from the visit. The visit should be tangible with concrete economic results, said Levan Davitashvili. Cooperation in the tourist sector was positively assessed at the meeting, which is also confirmed by the statistics. According to the data of 11 months 2022, 100,000 visitors arrived from Saudi Arabia, which was 100% more compared to the same period in 2021. The parties welcomed the deepening of cooperation in the field of tourism.
And let us bring some celebration mood to the checkpoints. Christmas is approaching, after all. The United Nations World Tourism Organization names Mestia among the best tourism villages of 2022. Mestia, with its fascinating nature and rich history, has remarkable monuments of Georgian architecture and ethnography, including churches, monasteries, traditional towers, and local buildings. The village has a diverse landscape rich in forest areas and alpine zones, and is famous for attracting world-renowned sports championships. A hiking and trekking paradise over the snow mountains in Mestia offers skiing and snowboarding for 8 months of the year. This is what the WTO said. From Austria to Vietnam, 32 destinations from all around the world have been named as Best Tourism Villages 2022 by the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO. The accolade recognizes rural destinations that are embracing tourism as a driver of development and new opportunities for jobs and income, while preserving and promoting community-based values and products. The initiative also recognizes villages for their commitment to innovation and sustainability in all its aspects: economic, social, and environmental, and a focus on developing tourism in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs.
Whenever you go rural, you're about to change your life. Whenever you choose this path, you'll find your promised land. Here, the biggest thing is the smallest one. Here, our history becomes the foundation of your stories, because rural is not your destination, it's your destiny. It's the simple whisper and the kindness of people. So keep going. You're about to change your life. Because going rural is being one with nature and the serenity of the wilderness. It's your past, your present, and your future. Because rural is not the end, it is the beginning. Discover the Best Tourism Villages 2022.
And that's all for today. We will meet a new year, but before that, check us out at Forbes.g and BM.g and keep an eye on Georgia's business and economy news and analysis.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.